Right, welcome everybody. Today what we are looking at is the bending process for a piece of acrylic which I have pre-prepared here. Before you start bending, there are several things that need to be done in advance, okay? So you need to ensure that whatever you're bending out is all marked out, okay, and that it is cut out using the whole range of tools, okay? So that would be things like using a tri-square, using a steel rule, okay? In terms of cutting it out, you may well need to use a fret saw, you may well need to finish the edges, okay? Polish the edges so the item is fully finished. This one isn't, but I've just use this one as a guide, as a rough guide, okay? So make sure everything is sort of done first. The product is marked out, cut out, finished out, okay? And then what you can actually do is start the actual bending process, because you don't want to be finishing your product or cutting it out once it's been bent. So what I've done here with the tri-square, I've set some reference lines, okay, against this edge, which is a perfect straight edge, and these are the lines that I need to bend out, okay? So we have here a sort of a movable plate, if you like, and this allows us to adjust, you know, for the length, or take into account the length of the actual piece of acrylic. Now over here you can see there is sort of like an exhaust, and in there is your actual heating element that's sort of emanating heat from there, okay? So what we do, we try to line up the pencil line or the pen mark or the bend line, if you like, so that it runs in line with the actual heating element. I'm going to pull my guard out a little bit so it nice and gently rests, and then what I will do is I will just look over the top, just being careful of the heat, okay, to make sure that my lines match up with the line of heat that is emanating from the actual heating element. Usually this takes about 2 to 3 minutes, and you will be able to see perhaps the actual acrylic flexing or maybe moving down a little bit along the line, and that's your indication that the line has started to actually sort of take shape and be bendable. Right, so I've come back to the piece that is heating up, and you will see that I'm now wearing protective gloves, because obviously the heat is going to be more intense now. The piece of acrylic that I was touching without gloves before is going to be much hotter. And what I will do now, this has probably been about a minute on the actual strip heater, I just come and just give it a check to see if there's any flex on the piece of acrylic, which there slowly is. So this indicates to me that the polymer, okay, is starting to loosen up, okay, and in about another minute or so it's probably going to be ready to form around the former, and then we'll use these blocks, okay, to push the actual shape into place. Right everyone, what I've done now, I've actually come back after about another 30 seconds or so just to show you what's happening here. So you can see the polymer is actually starting to flex somewhat, but it needs probably about another 30 seconds or so. Right, okay everyone, I've come back to the workpiece, and it is very flexible now, so ready to actually do the bending. Now, in order for the bending to be effective, normally what you would have is a very bespoke jig that helps to clamp and form the heated up piece of polymer. In this instance, what we have here is just a very simple former. It's just like a block of wood, okay? We've got 2 blocks which will aid us in shaping the actual piece of acrylic here, so that we have a really nice straight and flat 90-degree bend on our workpiece, okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the workpiece, and you have to work quite quickly, okay? Because if you don't, the piece starts to cool down, okay? And the bend line, which was previously very supple and soft, starts to sort of solidify again, okay? So I'm going to try to do this very quickly. So I move it off of the heat, bring it over, and I'm going to marry up the line on our piece of acrylic along with the straight edge of the former itself. And now I'm just going to hold this in place. I'm not holding this one too tight because I want a slight sort of curve to the actual bend line itself. And now part of the process is that this is just now held in place. Okay, held in place. I would probably recommend for around sort of 2 to 3 minutes. What you can also do is, as long as it's away from any heat source or any electrical source, you could have a bowl of water, and then after about a minute or so you can dip the piece of acrylic into the water, and that will really sort of harden everything back up again. Right, okay everyone, so now you can see the finished article here. We've got a nice 90-degree bend there. It's been allowed to cool down and it's maintained the shape that we want. And now what we can do is just repeat the process for all the other bend lines depending on what shape your final product is.